KFUM Radio, Colorado Springs, Colorado Gold Camp Ghoulies, Episode 2, December 28, 1954. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is KFUM Radio, broadcasting from Colorado Springs, Colorado. I'm Charles Pemberton, and tonight we present the second installment of our investigative series, Gold Camp Ghoulies, a chronicle of the unexplained encounters and suppressed testimonies from the Cripple Creek mining district. 2 weeks ago, we brought you the extraordinary deathbed confession of Mr. Silas Magruder, who spoke of creatures discovered beneath Pike's Peak in the summer of 1900. Mr. Magruder passed away on December 19th, 9 days after that recording was made. His testimony, delivered with the courage of a man unburdening himself of a 54-year secret, has opened the floodgates. Since that broadcast aired, our offices have been contacted by more than 24 individuals, each claiming knowledge of similar encounters in the gold camps. These are not wild-eyed fortune-seekers or attention-hungry fabricators. These are respected members of our mining communities, men who worked the deep shafts, who witnessed things they were ordered to forget, who carried their silence for decades until Mr. Magruder showed them it was possible to speak. Tonight, we present testimony from 2 such men. Both worked at the Independence Mine during the district's most productive years. Both witnessed creatures, different from those Mr. Magruder described, but no less disturbing. And both can corroborate accounts of mysterious deaths that were systematically concealed by mining companies more interested in gold production than miner safety. What you are about to hear is being recorded live in our studio. There is no dramatization, no theatrical embellishment. Just 2 men speaking plainly about what they saw in the darkness below ground. Our correspondent, Mr. Harold Whitcomb, is conducting tonight's interview. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Charles. Good evening, listeners. I'm here in the KFUM studio with 2 gentlemen who have traveled from across the region to share their accounts with us. To my left is Mr. Anders Bergstrom, age 70, cattle rancher from Rush, Colorado. To my right is Mr. Billy Butler, age 68, retired shift foreman and the self-proclaimed mayor of Goldfield. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Appreciate the invitation, Mr. Whitcomb. Happy to finally tell it straight, Harold. Been carrying this a long while.
Mr. Bergstrom, let's start with you. You were born in the Midwest, Scandinavian heritage, came to the Cripple Creek district as a young man, is that correct?
That's right. My folks were from Sweden. Came over, settled in Kansas. I headed to Colorado in 1902, when I was 18. Gold camps were booming. Figured I could make something of myself.
And you found work at the Independence Mine?
Yes, sir. Started as a mucker on the day shift, then moved to nights. Paid better. Night shift was where they needed the most hands. Pushing deeper, always deeper. The Independence was one of the richest operations in the district. Stratton's old claim, sold to British investors. They wanted every ounce they could get.
Mr. Butler, you also worked at the Independence Mine?
From 1900 through 28, when the mill closed. Started about the same time as Anders here, though we worked different shifts mostly. I knew him by reputation. Solid worker. Didn't complain. We weren't friends exactly, but you know how it is in the camps. You know who's reliable. Billy was one of the good ones. Fair man. Made shift foreman by the time I left.
Now, gentlemen, before we discuss the specific incident of January 27th, 1904, I want to establish something clearly. Both of you are claiming that you encountered creatures in the Independence Mine, creatures that the miners called clingers. Is that accurate?
That's what we called them, the clingers. Most everybody who worked underground knew about them. It was just understood. You didn't talk about it topside. Company didn't want to hear it. But down below, every man knew to watch the walls.
Can you describe these clingers for our listeners?
Small. Maybe the size of a child, 3 or 4 feet tall. But they weren't children. Lord, no. Built different. 2 arms, 2 legs, but the proportions were all wrong. Hunched over, long fingers with claws that could grip into solid rock. Skin was grayish-blue, smooth like a salamander, but tougher. They blended right into the stone. You could walk past one and never know it was there until the eyes lit up.
The eyes?
Red eyes. That's how you'd spot 'em if you were lucky. Sometimes they'd glow red, bright as a hot coal. Other times they'd be dark. We never figured out if they were blinking or if it was something they controlled. But when those eyes went red in your lamplight, you knew to get clear. They'd attach themselves to the walls of the drifts, the stopes, anywhere vertical. Just cling there, flat against the rock, waiting. Patient as death. Smart, too. They knew the routine of the shifts, knew where men would walk, where to position themselves in the dark spots between the lamps.
What was their behavior? Were they aggressive?
Ambush hunters. They'd wait for a man to get too close, then grab him. Fast, faster than you'd think something could move. Those claws would sink into your shoulders or your neck, and that was it. I saw one take a timberman in 03. Fellow named Kowalski. No relation to the Danny from Mr. Magruder's story. The clinger dropped from the ceiling beam, landed on his back. Joe didn't even have time to scream before his neck snapped. They smelled terrible, too. Like rotten eggs and old meat. Sometimes you'd catch that stink in a drift and know one was close by. Smart miners would turn around, take a different route. But new fellows, greenhorns who didn't know better, they'd keep walking right into it.
How common were these attacks?
More common than anybody wanted to admit. The company kept it quiet. A man would disappear or turn up dead, and the official report would say cave-in or fall or equipment failure. Families would get compensated. Everybody signed papers. And that was that. The gold was too good to stop operations over a few dead miners.
Mr. Bergstrom, you mentioned you were present during the hoisting accident of January 27, 1904. This is a documented historical event. 15 non-union miners killed when the hoist mechanism failed between 2 and 2:30 in the morning. Can you tell us what happened?
I can. I was on that hoist cage. Rode it up about 10 minutes before it failed.
Take us through that night.
It was a Tuesday. Cold night, middle of winter. I was working the 1,200-foot level. Night shift like always. We'd been pulling ore from a new drift. Good stuff. High grade. Around 2 in the morning, my shift was ending. I headed for the hoist cage with maybe 8 other fellows. When we got to the shaft, I saw it. A clinger clinging to the wall of the shaft itself, maybe 20 feet up from where the cage would pass. Its eyes were glowing red. I could see it clear as day in my carbide lamp. It was positioned right next to the hoist cables.
What did you do?
I pointed it out to the fellow next to me. He saw it, too. We both got real quiet. The cage came down, we got on, and I kept my eyes on that thing the whole ride up. It didn't move, just watched us pass. But I saw those claws, and I saw how close it was to the cables. When I got topside, I went straight to the shift foreman and told him there was a clinger in the hoist shaft. He told me to keep my mouth shut and go home. Said I was tired seeing things. But I wasn't tired, Mr. Whitcomb. I was scared. Scared enough that I found surface work within the month and never went underground again.
And the hoist failed shortly after you saw this clinger?
20 minutes, maybe less. The next cage went down to bring up the second half of the shift. 15 men got on. Halfway up, the cable snapped. They dropped 1,200 feet. I wasn't there that night, but I knew fellows who were. The official report said the cable failed due to wear and stress, but the cage had been inspected 2 days prior. That cable was sound.
You believe a clinger severed the cable then?
Those claws could cut through rock. A steel cable wouldn't be much harder. And the timing, right after Anders reported seeing one, that's not coincidence. I know what I saw. I've spent 50 years thinking about it. I was in the trenches during the Great War, saw things in France that would make most men go mad, but nothing haunted me like those red eyes in the hoist shaft. Every time I was in a bunker, every time I was underground in the dark, I'd think about the clingers, waiting, watching.
Mr. Butler, you mentioned earlier that you witnessed mysterious deaths. Can you provide specific examples?
I can give you 3 that I know for certain were clingers, and I can tell you why.
Please proceed.
First one was in 1906 at the Strong Mine. I was working there temporarily, filling in for a foreman who'd taken ill. There was a mucker named Pete Halloran. Good fellow, Irish. Worked hard. They found him dead in a cross-cut on the 800-foot level. Official report said he fell from a ladder, hit his head.
But
I helped carry the body out. Pete had claw marks on his shoulders and neck, 4 deep gouges on each side like something had grabbed him from above. No ladder in that drift could have caused those marks, and his neck was broken, clean. Same way you'd ring a chicken. The foreman ordered us to get the body topside quick and seal off that section. No investigation, no questions. Production was too important.
the second incident?
1911, the Elkton Mine. Young timberman, Chinese fellow named Tommy Chin. He was riding the hoist cage up from the 600-foot level. The cage arrived at 700 empty. Tommy was gone. They found him 3 days later in an abandoned stope with his carbide lamp still burning. The lamp was upright, still working, meaning somebody or something had set it down careful-like. Tommy's body showed signs of being dragged. Deep scratches all along his arms and legs, his shirt torn to shreds. Company ruled it. Wandered off in confusion. But you don't drag yourself, Mr. Whitcomb. And you don't disappear from a moving cage.
And the third?
1918, the pharmacist's mine. This one I didn't see personally, but I heard it from a fellow who boarded at the same house as the victim. Night shift driller, working alone in a drift on the 900-foot level. He heard a screeching sound, not like metal on metal, but organic, like an animal. Then he saw eyes. Red eyes glowing on the wall not 10 feet from him. He ran, made it to the cage, rode it topside. When he got to the lamp house, the attendant saw claw marks across his back, 4 parallel cuts through his shirt and into the skin. The mine superintendent paid him 3 months' wages to leave the district that same night and never speak of it. The fellow took the money and disappeared. I heard the story from his neighbor 2 days later.
These incidents, the Strong Mine, the Elkton, the pharmacist, were their official records kept?
Oh, there were records. Accident reports, compensation paperwork, all proper and official. But the real story got buried with the bodies. The mining companies had too much invested. The independence alone was pulling out millions in gold. You don't shut down an operation like that because some miners are claiming they saw monsters, and the men knew it. We all knew that if you spoke up, you'd lose your job. In a town where the mine was the only work, that meant you and your family starved. So you kept your head down, you watched the walls, and you hoped the clingers didn't notice you.
We pause now for a word from our sponsors.
Miners, ranchers, and travelers of the Cripple Creek district, when the day's work is done and your appetite calls for satisfaction, there's only one destination, the 1899 Mining Claim and Saloon, located on Victor Avenue in historic Victor, Colorado. Step through our doors and step back in time to the glory days of the gold rush. Our saloon has served thirsty miners and hungry families since 1899, and we're proud to carry on that tradition today.
After a long day exploring the district, nothing beats a cold beer and one of their famous burgers. The atmosphere takes you right back to the mining days.
Our kitchen serves up the heartiest fare in the mountains. Sink your teeth into our renowned bacon blue burger, piled high with crisp bacon and tangy blue cheese. Or try our green chili burger, fire-roasted chilies that'll warm you up on a cold mountain night. And don't miss our hand-battered onion rings and jalapeno poppers fresh from the fryer. Wash it all down with a cold microbrew from our taps. We feature the finest craft beers from across Colorado. Whether you prefer a crisp lager after a day on the trails or a rich stout by the fire, we've got something to quench every thirst. It's not just a saloon, it's where locals and visitors come together. Good food, good drinks, and good people. The 1899 mining claim and saloon offers both indoor seating in our authentic period atmosphere and outdoor seating for those who want to take in the mountain air. Family owned and operated, we treat every guest like kin. Come for the history, stay for the hospitality. Open 7 days a week on Victor Avenue in Victor, Colorado, the heart of the district. Tell them you heard about us on KFUM Radio. The 1899 Mining Claim and Saloon, where Victor's past meets your present appetite.
We return now to our live interview with Mr. Anders Bergstrom and Mr. Billy Butler, discussing their encounters with the creatures known as clingers in the Independence Mine and surrounding operations. Gentlemen, I want to press on something you both mentioned. You've described these clingers as intelligent, methodical predators, yet neither of you has suggested they were ever captured, studied, or definitively proven to exist. How do you reconcile that?
Because nobody wanted proof, Mr. Whitcomb. The company certainly didn't. Every clinger attack meant potential lawsuits, labor disputes, maybe even a shutdown. Easier to blame equipment failure or human error. Pay off the families. Bury the truth with the bodies. And the men themselves didn't want proof. What were we going to do? Catch one and bring it topside? Even if you could trap a clinger, which I doubt, who would you show it to? The same foreman who'd been covering up deaths for years. The same company owners who were making fortunes off that gold.
Did anyone ever attempt to document these creatures? Photographs, sketches, physical evidence?
There was a fellow in '07, worked at the Portland mine, fancy, educated type. He tried to sketch one that he saw. Showed the drawing to his shift boss. The boss tore it up and told him if he made another one, he'd be fired and blacklisted from every mine in the district. The fellow never drew another picture. You have to understand, this was a different time. Miners didn't question management. You did your work, you took your pay, and you kept your mouth shut. The clingers were just another hazard, like bad air or unstable timbers. You learned to live with it or you found different work.
Mr. Bergstrom, after you left the Independence Mine, you became a mill worker, then served in World War I, then moved to Rush and became a rancher. You mentioned earlier that the clingers haunted you during the war. Can you elaborate?
In the trenches, you spent a lot of time underground. Bunkers, dugouts, tunnels, dark, tight spaces. Every time I was in one of those places, I'd think about the mines. I'd watch the walls, looking for those red eyes. My squad mates thought I was jumpy, paranoid. They didn't know what I'd seen. There were times in the deepest dugouts when I'd catch a smell, like sulfur and rot. Just for a second, then it'd be gone. Could have been my imagination. Could have been the war playing tricks on my mind. But it felt real. Felt like they were there, watching, waiting.
And that fear stayed with you?
For a long time, yes. But after the war, I had enough. I moved out to the flatlands, built a ranch where everything was open and bright. No mines, no caves, no dark places. I haven't been underground since 1918. And I don't intend to start now.
Mr. Butler, you stayed in mining through 1942. How did you manage that, knowing these things were down there?
You learn the patterns. The clingers didn't attack randomly. They were smart about it. They'd pick off isolated workers, men who strayed too far from the group or worked alone in remote drifts. So I made sure to always stay with my crew. Always kept moving. Never lingered in one spot too long. And I watched the walls. Always watched the walls. Plus, some levels were safer than others. The clingers seemed to prefer certain depths, usually between 600 and 1,200 feet. Go too shallow and they weren't there. Go too deep and, well, we didn't know. Not many mines went below 1,500 feet in those days.
Did the presence of the clingers change over time? Did their behavior evolve?
Hard to say. Attacks seemed to come in waves. You'd go months without incident, then have 3 or 4 in quick succession. Could have been related to mining activity. Maybe when we'd break into new sections, we'd disturb them. Or maybe it was breeding cycles, territorial behavior. We just didn't know. What I can tell you is that by the 20s, there seemed to be fewer sightings. Whether that's because the clingers moved deeper, or because there were fewer miners to see them, or because we'd learned to avoid the areas where they hunted, I couldn't say.
Let me ask you both directly. Do you believe the clingers still exist in those mines today?
I believe they're down there, yes. Most of the old Independence workings are flooded now, but there are dry sections. And all those other mines, hundreds of them, still have accessible tunnels. The clingers survived for however many thousands of years before we showed up. I don't think 50 years of mining would wipe them out. I don't know if they're still there. I hope they're not. But I wouldn't go down to check.
We pause once more for a word from our sponsors.
History enthusiasts and families visiting the Pikes Peak region. Discover the true story of the world's greatest gold camp at the Cripple Creek District Museum, located at 5th and Bennett Avenue in historic Cripple Creek. Journey through time as you explore our magnificent collection. Marvel at authentic mining artifacts from the glory days of the gold rush. Study rare photographs that capture life in the camps when fortune seekers flooded these mountains. Examine our stunning mineral displays, including genuine Colorado gold.
The museum brings the past to life. The kids were amazed by the old mining cabins and Victorian furnishings. It's educational and entertaining for the whole family.
Walk through reconstructed mining cabins and Victorian living quarters. See the towering gold sovereign head frame. Examine Western firearms, mining equipment, and personal effects from the men and women who built this district. Our knowledgeable staff can answer your questions about Cripple Creek's wild past, from Bob Womack's first discovery to the Great Fires of 1896, from the labor wars to the modern era. And don't miss the Trading and Transfer gift shop, housed in the oldest building in town. Browse our extensive collection of books on Colorado history, local geology guides, and mining lore. We're the only rock shop in Cripple Creek, featuring beautiful specimens from the district and beyond. Find unique gifts and souvenirs that capture the spirit of the gold camps. Where the locals shop, the staff is friendly and helpful, and you can find treasures you won't see anywhere else. The Cripple Creek District Museum is open weekends from 10 o'clock in the morning until 4 in the afternoon through May, then daily during the summer season from 10 to 5. Admission is just $9 for adults, $7 for military, and $2 for children ages 6 through 12. Little ones 5 and under get in free with the purchase of an adult admission. This is a must-see when visiting Cripple Creek. The Cripple Creek District Museum, preserving the heritage of the world's greatest gold camp, located at 5th and Bennett Avenue in Cripple Creek, Colorado. Telephone 719-689-9540. The Cripple Creek District Museum, where history comes alive.
We return now to conclude our interview with Anders Bergstrom and Billy Butler. Gentlemen, we're coming to the end of our time together. I want to ask you both the same question we asked Mr. Magruder. Why are you speaking now? Why, after all these years, have you chosen to break your silence?
Because Silas Magruder showed it could be done. I heard his broadcast 2 weeks ago, sitting in my living room in Rush. My wife was there, my children, my grandchildren. When it ended, my eldest boy looked at me and said, "Dad, you worked those mines. Did you ever see anything like that?" and I realized I'd been carrying this for 50 years, keeping it locked up, like the companies wanted. And what good had it done? Silas spoke the truth, and the sky didn't fall. So I called KFUM the next morning. I knew Silas. Not well, but I knew him. Respected him. When he died last week, I attended his funeral at Sunnyside Cemetery. There must have been 50 people there, miners mostly, fellows who'd worked the district. And after the service, standing around in the cold, we started talking. Turns out half of us had stories. Different creatures, different minds, but the same pattern. Companies covering it up, men staying quiet out of fear. And I thought about Silas, how he'd risked his reputation to tell the truth. Seemed like the least I could do was honor that. Plus, they're talking about reopening some of the deep mines. New techniques, new equipment. I read about it in the papers. And if they go down there without knowing what's waiting...
You're concerned for the safety of modern miners?
I'm concerned they'll make the same mistakes we did, treating the clingers like they don't exist because it's easier than dealing with the truth. The companies will say we're old men telling tall tales. They'll say there's no evidence, no proof. And maybe they're right. Maybe there isn't any proof left after all these years. But I know what I saw. Anders knows what he saw. And if our testimony saves even one life, it's worth whatever ridicule comes our way.
Final question for you both. If you could speak directly to someone planning to work in those mines, what would you tell them?
Watch the walls. Don't work alone. And if you smell something foul or you see red eyes in the darkness, run. Don't be a hero. Just run. And don't trust the company to protect you. They'll tell you it's safe, that the old stories are nonsense, but gold makes men do terrible things, including pretending that their workers aren't in danger. You stay smart, you stay alert, and you make it home to your family. That's all that matters.
Mr. Bergstrom, Mr. Butler, thank you for your testimony tonight. This couldn't have been easy.
Appreciate you listening, Harold. Thanks for giving us the chance to tell it.
This concludes our interview. Thank you, gentlemen.
And so we close the second chapter of Gold Camp Ghoulies, with the sobering testimony of Anders Bergstrom and Billy Butler, two men who lived through the dangers they described, who carried their silence for decades, and who have now chosen to speak. We at KFUM Radio have attempted to verify the details of their accounts. The January 27, 1904 hoisting accident at the Independence Mine is well documented. 15 men did indeed perish when the hoist cable failed at approximately 2:15 in the morning. Official records attribute the failure to cable fatigue and mechanical stress. The Strong Mine incident of 1906, the Elkton disappearance of 1911, and the pharmacist mine attack of 1918 all appear in mining company records as workplace accidents. However, the specific details described by Mr. Butler, the nature of the injuries, the circumstances of the deaths, are not included in those official reports. Anders Bergstrom's military service is confirmed. He served with distinction in the American Expeditionary Forces during the Great War and was honorably discharged in 1919. He has operated a cattle ranch in Rush, Colorado since 1920. Billy Butler's employment history at the Independence and Vindicator mines is verified through Union records. He retired as a shift foreman in 1942 and has resided in Goldfield ever since. He is indeed known locally as the Mayor of Goldfield, a title bestowed upon him by his neighbors in recognition of his community service and historical knowledge. Whether their accounts of the clingers represent objective reality, collective delusion, or something in between, we leave to you, our listeners, to decide. What cannot be disputed is this: these men believe what they're telling us. Their fear is genuine. Their warnings are sincere. As the Cripple Creek district contemplates renewed deep mining operations, perhaps it would be wise to consider the testimony of those who worked those depths before. To ask not just what riches lie beneath the mountain, but what else might dwell there in the dark. This has been Gold Camp Ghoulies, a KFUM radio special investigation. I'm Charles Pemberton. Our correspondent was Harold Whitcomb. Our guests were Anders Bergstrom and Billy Butler. We remind our listeners that the mines of the Cripple Creek district remain active and dangerous. Unauthorized entry is illegal and potentially fatal. The old workings are unstable, flooded, and hazardous. Whether you believe in the clingers or not, the physical dangers of abandoned mines are very real. Join us in 2 weeks for the third installment of Gold Camp Ghoulies, when we investigate reports of strange occurrences at the Molly Kathleen Mine. This is KFUM Radio, serving the Pikes Peak region. Good night, and stay safe out there in the gold camps.